Doesn't look like there's going to be any focus on shutting down Tabs' utility carries, something that we saw from Huma in nearly every game last week.
Well, it looks like the Misfits are saying, we don't care. We have a plan to deal with your utility AD carries. If anything, the fact that Millenium have so consistently stuck to this strategy means that Misfits have had plenty of time to build compositions and build ideas that can help deal with it. And just looking across the board of what is available right now, Ashe could look to be first picked up for Hansama. There's still the Bard available for Ignar if he wants it. Vladimir is still up. Yes, he did receive a bit of a nerf on 6.13, but still a powerful champion. But it looks like they're going to put a bit of priority onto Wisdom's jungle.
Absolutely. Locking in the Rek'Sai here. Gangplank bans rounding this pick ban out. Of course, Gangplank rising in popularity as a pick against, I believe, Shen specifically. But additionally, we saw G2 bring it out against a Malzahar mid lane. So maybe just some general power picks taken off the table on the side of Millenium here. Now, Misfits prioritizing Wisdom's jungle pool. This is really interesting to me. What do you think their thought process is here?
It looks like that not only are they taking the jungler away from Joko, something that he has shown a lot of comfort on, but it results in Wisdom being on a jungler that not only sits as a fantastic frontline, you can set up all kinds of early game ganks, you have the farm alarm, you can set up for the 1-3-1 with Rek'Sai if you want. Rek'Sai is just a very safe, well-rounded jungler that fits into all manner of compositions. So picking that one up early, basically Misfits are saying we're not going to show our hand just yet.
Interesting as well. Millenium now picking up the Shen after banning out the Gangplank. Seems like a sound bit of strategy from them, but Tabs not opting to go for a utility AD carry here. Instead opting to go for the Lucian. Now, Vedius, last time we cast these guys, we talked about the Lucian pick in that series as a whole, no matter whose hands it was in, being just a little bit lackluster.
It honestly felt like that neither Millenium or Huma could properly utilize Lucian in a way that allowed him to be hyper-aggressive, sit in the enemy front line and just deal all this damage and rely on your mechanics to keep you alive. And that was a big question mark for us. Why is there so much value going on to it? But it looks like the Millenium have said, hey, we've worked on our issues, we realized what we did wrong last week, we're going to go back to this AD carry that not as lane dominant as he once was, but can still have this fantastic mid-game spike. And if you can use it properly, then there's no one that's going to be able to challenge it.
And interesting, maybe just prioritizing a little bit of comfort down there in the bot lane just to go up against Hansama. Hans, of course, now locking in the Ashe, Selfie getting the Azir, so two relatively strong picks for those individual laners, but Hansama has been an absolute terror in these games. When we look back at Misfits set versus Epsilon, I mean, game one, Misfits did make a lot of mistakes, and it felt like the reason they came back so decisively after a slightly rougher early game, once again, still pretty Misfits-sided, was Hansama and Ignar just constant double kills. You heard Stress talk about it on the desk. It's just these guys have obliterated their bot lane opponents.
Well, the fact that they have the Ashe, something you always have to be mindful of is the level 6 all-in potential. And as we've seen a rise in range supports for pretty much the entire split now, one support champion has stayed consistent throughout, and that is the Braum. Braum Ashe is a great level 6 all-in combo that if you do not respect it, they have so much potential to get that double kill, so much potential to snowball that lane in their favor, and as we've already mentioned so many times from Misfits, it is something that they are not afraid to set themselves up for.
Absolutely not. Now, of course, Gnar and Braum going to be the final lock-ins, rounding out that Braum Ashe lane, as you said, and also giving a little bit of laning power over to Alphari on the top side of the map. Gnar versus Shen, of course, a very skill-intensive matchup. But Millenium, they're getting a lot of power picks of their own. Vladimir in the mid lane for Pretty, as well as the jungle Gragas for Joko. This is a guy that they talked about in the feature. It's a man you want to shut down, and now a lot of initiation power in his hands with this Gragas pick.
It does look like that not only will they have a big briefy front line in the form of Shen and Gragas, they have a lot of global pressure. They can set up for the 1-3-1 with the Vladimir in a side lane. Likely going to be running that Ghost as well, which still isn't that much of a problem because right now Misfits, the only option they have to deal with it is to put both the Azir and the Ashe in the mid and send Rek'Sai to the bottom. Come late game, he is not going to be able to deal with that Vladimir. So I do quite like the draft from Millenium so far. The only concern that I have for them is, again, this ability to engage. This was something that we saw a lot from them last week when they played up against Huma, and if they cannot force these objectives, this is something that could give away a lead to Misfits because they are not afraid to fight.
Absolutely, but when we look, I mean, they have rounded out their composition with a little bit more engage, a little bit more options here by picking up this Morgana comfort pick for Masterwork. Now, something he has been very accomplished on in the past, something we saw Kasing bust out in the LCS as well. So while it's not always the most standard of meta picks, we have seen individual players who are comfortable on this champion really be able to make a lot of impact.
It actually mitigates a lot of the all-in potential of the Lucian and the Braum as well, because you have the Black Shield for the hard CC, you can use it against the concursive blows, you can use it against gets to pick potential from the Ash Arrow. You can use it against the Azir Wall. There are many options to actually use that Morgana, and I feel like if there was a time to pick it, now is that time.
Absolutely. So comfort picks a little bit coming out here. You can see the coaches shake hands as we gear up for our first game of this series. Now, if you have not already, head on over to Twitter, hashtag MSFWin or hashtag MILWin, as we get ready for our first game of the series. I'm really excited to see this bot lane, I'm going to be honest. Every time, the Hans lane, we know it's aggressive. Tabs, we've seen him make some moves of his own, and I'm wondering if today is the day that someone is going to be able to keep up.
I've always wondered how aggressive you can actually be on an Ashe. I didn't think you could really do it with a Caitlyn, and then we saw Hans Summer get a 1 versus 3 in the enemy base. So I'm not going to count out anything just yet, and this is Challenger, so you never know what you're going to get on the day. But here we are. We're going to be jumping into Game 1, and I think this could be extremely hype.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, Game 1, promotion seeding on the line. Both teams eager to claim the title of Challenger champion here. Only one is going to walk away with it, however. Now, Vedius, the inevitable question that I have to ask you every time we get into a game. Is this standard lanes, or are we going to see the lane swap?
Interesting question. If anyone's going to lane swap, I expect it to be Millenium, simply to get the Shen out of the Gnar matchup. Can be relatively rough, simply because Gnar is quite the lane bully. He has the lane advantage, range advantage, sorry. And Kaze being on that Shen, relatively safe into the Gnar. He won't experience as much punishment as, say, someone like a Trundle would, but it's still not a matchup you necessarily want to go up against. But the Morgana is relatively good into the Braum. Lucian, typically if you have them in a 1 versus 1 against an Ashe, as long as you play around the focus, you actually should be able to come out on top. But then again, you are going up against Hans Summer, so that's always one that's up for debate. But yeah, if we're likely to see a swap, I do expect it to come out from Millenium, but then standard lanes, not really a negative thing for either team either.
Yeah, definitely not a negative team for us either. We want to see the 2v2, and of course it looks like we are going to get it as Tabs works his way into the bottom lane. Ashe and Braum on the way down as well. So both teams, even with the information they have, still opting for the standard lanes. Fari and Wisdom going to start at the Gromp. Opposite side, Joko and Kaze on the Krugs. Nothing out of the ordinary yet.
And seeing as we touched on the top, touched on the bot, quick shout out to mid. Oh, hang on a second, because it looks like Hans and Ignar are both bottom lanes setting up for a cheeky level 1 play. But look at this. Look at your minimap. You can see Millenium are being pinged out by Misfits. They know what is going on, and they're going to go for the play.
And by go for the play, we mean go for the potentially faster level 2 here. Of course, neither team wanting to all in quite yet. No reason to risk on the level 1. Lucian with a lot of power, but concussive blows from the Braum can be quite terrifying. Now, both these lanes trading up. I feel like level 6, as we see so often in these games, is going to be the big break point here. When Gnar has this ultimate, Shen with the Stand United. Similar story for Vladimir with the Hemo Plague. So much more potential damage as we move further and further into the game. And the early levels from these lanes, outside of Binding's landing, I don't think are going to be too aggressive.
Yeah, it looks like the Misfits just doing what they can to get that early level 2. Want to control the bottom lane as much as they can. And with this level disadvantage, Millenium are going to be forced to back away. Meanwhile, in the mid, you can see Azir taking advantage of his long-range poke that he has over Pretty. Can't quite match the same level of wave clear that Selfie can. So he's just going to have to, for the time being, deal with the sort of pressure. However, this will change over time. Once Vlad gets a couple of levels under his belt, once he completes his Spirit Visage, the poke will be less oppressive. Pretty will have more wave clear with his Tides of Bloods. But typically during the early game, you've just got to experience the rough times.
Absolutely. It doesn't look like it's too rough quite yet. Still able to get a decent amount of farm here. Things still going okay, but Wisdom starting to push in, get aggressive onto Joko here. Now, going forward, who's actually going to get this blue buff? Smite not available for either jungler. Both going for the hard bluff. Binding going to land. Nothing going to come of it. Joko's going to walk away with the blue buff there. Not going to worry too much about it.
So Wisdom realizing that he could go for a bit of a cheeky invade, deciding to skip his blue entirely to get towards the enemy camp as quickly as he can. However, with the support of Masterwork, Misfits were not able to steal away that buff, which means that in terms of an experience advantage, Joker will have the slight edge. But given that you are Rek'Sai, you don't necessarily need that blue buff. It's not going to hurt you too much, so you can just return to the bottom half of your map and continue on with your jungle time. So looks like pretty standard early game so far, nothing too exciting. Cloud Drake is the first one on the board. and unfortunately it's not quite Cloud Appreciation Day just yet.
It is still 6-13.
It is still 6-13, so likely that neither team will look to put a lot of value on getting this very early on, but if it's free, they're not going to go and say, nah. They'll likely pick it up if they see an opportunity to.
I'm going to have to wonder when that opportunity is going to present itself, but Hans Sama taking a binding here. A bit more poke, not looking to all-in whatsoever, I guess, giving a lot of respect to Ignar showing up there in the lane. Now he's waiting in the wings, maybe hoping to throw down a bit of poke here, maybe hoping to get an engage. Masterwork just now hitting level 3. We're going to follow this bird a little bit. Poor bird. That does not look like a comfortable way to fly.
No, that is a very valid point. He's constantly doing barrel rolls.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's not always nauseous.
I'm just glad that PETA doesn't watch League of Legends.
Look at the positioning of Ignar now. Might even go for a play onto Masterwork.
Blows. Oh, that's a lot of damage.
Yeah.
No Black Shield coming out either. Masterwork, a lot of patience. Lesser supports would have panicked there.
Very surprised that he decided not to go for that, because he took a lot of free damage, and now both supports just trading back and forth. And in all honesty, it's the Misfits bottom lane coming out ahead as that Selfie goes in.
Oh, getting aggressive onto Pretty. Nothing burned quite yet, of course. Blue buff donated over to Selfie here in this early game.
Ouch.
Rek'Sai, as you mentioned, doesn't need it, but Pretty's going to need something. No TP for the Vladimir. He's going to have to walk back the long way.
Or not. He's actually decided to go for the very early Doran shield. Vladimir, one of the few champions that actually gets some value out of it because it gives you HP. It will also give you a bit of ability power. But look at this. Joko coming in, trying to provide a bit of extra support for Pretty. But Selfie has just hit level 6. He has the ult now. The all-in potential is there. But after using his E, that risk is now gone. And so Pretty should be fine to farmer.
Oh, moving forward. A lot of healing can come out of this Vladimir. Got to keep your eyes on the Rek'Sai and the Gragas. Joko sees an opportunity, but so does Wisdom, pushing it onto Selfie. Getting a little bit aggressive here. Soldiers moving down, jump back. Joko just going to flash out, doesn't want this fight. Pretty is far too low.
So Joko, he used his flash very defensively there because he did not want Selfie to throw his ultimate down for then Wisdom to get the knock-up and to get themselves a potential kill. So Joko just playing very reserved. Both teams very patient in this early game, which I think is very smart for the first game of the series. But the thing for me is, Sifa, they have 5 games. Why not be a little bit antsy in game 1? Why not take risks? Why not see what opportunities you can get? And I feel like against a team as strong as Misfits, you need to be willing to take those risks from time to time.
I think Misfits are taking some risks as their own. You can see how low Ignar drops in that trade. Additionally, how aggressive Wisdom has been pushing it onto the jungle of Joko here, using the mobility of this Rek'Sai to just outmaneuver. Of course, still behind farm, but you can see the Sightstone buy coming out for Wisdom. I like the way that this guy has shifted tempo. We used to see him play the Kindred player, you know, the guy who would take so much farm, but now opting for the early Sightstone buy, a much more supportive role for him on this team.
Yeah. Decided to focus on controlling vision for the time being, not even picking up his jungle item and instead just saying, all right, as long as my laners can see where Joko is and what threat that he poses, then we'll be fine during the early game, because we feel that we're the stronger laners. We feel that we can build a decent lead, and you can already start to see that develop in both mid and bot. 66-55 in favor of Hans, 63-50 in favor of Selfie. So as long as this continues, Misfits will come out of the laning phase with a very strong advantage. And so Wisdom is saying, I'm just going to make sure that my laners can continue to do this.
I think very smart decision making. As you said, the CS lead continues to grow here as Selfie tries to zone Pretty out in the mid lane. And Wisdom moving in to clear out this pink ward as well. No fear paid to the enemy's team. You know, Selfie has the pressure advantage in mid, and for Wisdom and the rest of Misfits, it's been a slow early game, but they've been steadily choking out the opposite side in terms of resources. The gold lead, while small, does continue to grow in their favor.
So one thing we have to remember for Misfits is they do have quite a scaling comp. Azir typically not wanting to make plays very early on into the game. You do have the Shurima Shuffle for a potential pick. And speaking of picks, Joko's come mid.
Selfie buying time, waiting for the opportunity to dash out on that Sand Soldier. They're not even going to commit to that. Too scared of the potential follow-up from Wisdom. Don't want to get thrown into anything with the wall, and Wisdom moving over to take the blue buff. Misfits are absolutely fearless in their early game play. They're just trying to choke everything and take everything away from Millenium, but Millenium aren't having it quite yet. Binding going to drop down onto Ignar as we scroll down, and Nothing going to come of that in the end.
That was a bit of a cheeky play from Wisdom. Not only has he been controlling a lot of the jungle of Millenium, but he also said, oh, you're going to gank my mid? Well, I'm just going to take your blue because I know you're not going to be able to contest it. And then, what's going to make things worse is I'm going to allow my mid laners to come over and have it for myself. Unfortunately, they weren't able to take it because Millenium read what was going on. But still, the fact that Misfits had the guts to make that play just shows how aggressive they are willing to play and how unafraid of Millenium they seem to be in the early game.
Absolutely. You can even see Pretty, despite having that empowered transfusion, not willing to run forward onto Selfie, and Selfie just keeps on trading. Low mana bar does not mean a thing to him. Of course, Joko continuing to apply pressure around this mid lane. It looks like the side of Millenium really wants to shut down this Azir in the early game, but really not given any opportunities here to do so.
Farm alarm comes out from Wisdom. So as we were mentioning earlier on, both teams do have quite a scaling composition. Shen wants to wait until he hits his 2-item spike before he becomes this big, ruthless tank that no one can push aside. Joko may have found Wisdom, but I doubt much is going to happen off the back of this. But yeah, both scaling compositions. Gnar, typically pretty useful throughout the game simply because of his ultimate, not really built around his itemization. Once he gets a Black Cleaver, he becomes a pretty good split pusher. But after that, you're going to go into the full tank. You're just going to be this front line that becomes very difficult to kill. For Selfie and Hans, they really play around the 2-item spike, so Nash's Sooth into Rylai's could be the core right now for Selfie. He may decide to go for the Morellonomicon. The fact that he's picked up that dagger means that he is more likely going towards the Nash's Tooth, but obviously the Grievous Wound's always very valuable to have against Pretty. And it actually surprises me that there is no no Ignite on the side of Misfits, because typically you do see these being picked up into a Vladimir simply because of how strong it is.
Here comes the gank on the top side, though. Shadow Dash goes down. Kaze going to block out what damage he can, but once again, Millenium continue to try to make moves, but it's not going to happen. Arrow going wide as well. Tabs with the footwork to dodge that one out. Both sides of the map ready for an engage at a moment's notice. Vedius, I gotta be honest, it's slow. We're waiting for these 2 items. I feel like this is the first date for Misfits and Millenium. No one wants to make a move yet, you know? You don't want to seem like a weirdo. Just want to play it calm, you want to play it cool, casual.
Yeah, so you talk about like the weather, you talk about, you know, do you think your mom would like me? You know, the typical first date
That's your
stuff.
First date topic? Do you think your mom would like me? Listen, I know that you have no plan of introducing me to your parents, but if you did,
say,
would we get along?
On a scale of 1 to 10, where would I rate in your mother's perceptions?
I can see now
why you're
such a lady killer there.
Yeah, if you hadn't guessed, my first date knowledge is not quite master tier.
No, you're challenger. You got this, Vedius.
I got this.
Don't let the world shut you down. Selfie continues to apply pressure here in the mid lane. Joko just clearing out the vision. No one, see, the thing I feel bad for Cloud Drake. Cloud Drake is a young, eligible bachelor. No one wants to give him any attention.
Sounds like my life, Seaper. Are you putting me onto the Cloud Drake? Is that what you're doing?
You are not the Cloud Drake. I would never say that about anyone.
I'm getting a buff next patch. I want to be the Cloud Drake.
No one wants to be the Cloud Drake. We tested next patch's Cloud Drake.
It's dope, man.
It's similarly disappointing.
Legit. What? No. Man, I don't know what test you were in, but it was fly. In any case, it's not this patch. We still have the ugly duckling Drake for now. Still waiting for his feathers to shine. The duck feathers shine? I don't know.
Who knows?
A duck, I would assume.
Yeah.
Misfits going for a bit of an invade onto the red.
Once again, Selfie just gets aggressive. Now, Misfits may not be fighting over much, but the buff fight is constant. And a nice little delivery there from Joko on the back half of that red buff. Getting cheeky, going for the steal, hoping to take it away, but isn't going to get it in the end. Misfits extending their goal lead, approaching 1,000, 13 minutes into the game. Now, no objectives here. Just taking away that jungle farm, putting more pressure in their respective lanes. You can see the CS difference in the top lane starting to grow. 129 to 106 here. So we watch a little bit of trading from the jungler and top laner.
Really like that play from Selfie simply because he pushed up mid, made sure that Pretty was forced underneath his turret so that he had to make the choice of safe farm. Ooh, flash, knock it from Wisdom.
makes it out in the end. Wisdom, hungry for blood, but isn't going to walk away with anything. Kaze maintaining that flash, but Misfits with the pressure advantage on the top side are going to take down their first tower and extend this gold lead to about 2K.
So this is exactly what we were discussing earlier. Wisdom playing very much around vision, making sure that Joko isn't really given any opportunities to get a successful gank off. And because the Misfits laners have just gradually worn down Millenium, they've been able to pick up their first turret of the game in standard lanes. This is a very early turret coming down. And this is not typically what we see from Challenger games, Sifa. Usually it's a bloodbath very early on, it's ganks all over the map. Control over vision is not at the highest level.
Yeah, this game, it's been all about vision, all about pressure, not about fighting on any territory whatsoever, just fighting for these small objectives in farm or towers or wave pressure. Both teams playing a much more patient game. Millenium very diligent with their vision control, something we were critical from them in the past, but unfortunately, it hasn't yielded anything for them quite yet.
I mean, just look at the minimap. The ward is littered with red wards, whereas there is only blue wards coming out in the bottom half of the map for Millenium, and a lot of that vision is actually coming out from Masterwork. He is just making sure that the dragon is controlled for by the side of Millenium, but that's just leaving Kaze to the wilderness, and that's what resulted in that turret being taken, combined with the relentless pressure that Alfari has been able to freely put out. Misfits have played this early game very intelligently, and I mean, it's very nice to see because we've praised this team as pretty much being super lane dominant, getting a bunch of kills early on, snowballing a lead, whereas right now, I'm starting to see this LCS caliber that they talked about. There is restraint, there is control, there is intelligent decision making, and this is all coming together to prove or to result in a very good early game for Misfits.
Absolutely. I mean, building small advantages here. No kills dropping for either side yet. The PvE game so far, Misfits are king.
This will be the latest first blood in Challenger. I think one of the ever, like of all time, Sifa. I mean, that's crazy. When have we ever said that about a Challenger game?
I don't know. They're killing a lot of objectives instead. Rift Herald now going to drop here to Alfari. Now, when we watch this team qualify, Rift Herald was the make or break point for every single Gnar lane, and Pretty, this may be the make or break point for him right now. Hop forward, Pool going down, he's going to have a bit more healing. Shen on the way in, that's the submarine. Vladimir is unkillable, but Ignar makes it through. They're moving forward, Selfie is overstayed. First blood dropping for Misfits, but Pretty's not out yet. Down goes the Soul Shackle from Morgana. Wisdom knocks to the wall, he could be next on the menu, gets the tunnel out. It's not enough, Millenium take the double kill, and they're shoving it down mid lane.
Oh, Misfits,
they're not done yet. Alfari could be next. That's 3 kills for Millenium. Hansama running it back with the black shield, denies the re-engage. And they're not going to get anything. Misfits in an instant lose their gold advantage as Millenium for such a massive fight.
3 kills for Millenium, and likely going to be a tower in the mid lane as well. Who would have thought that it would be Millenium to punish Misfits? Not really for their over-aggression, but for the fact that they were just able to get the better collapse off. Selfie held a little bit too long onto his ultimate. He wasn't willing to pull the trigger, but now Kaze, he's backing on a ward. Misfits have spotted him.
Oh, it's maybe an opportunity to get a kill back. Sanctuary blocking out a few hits, may have the opportunity to dash over the wall. Joko's there to back him up. Are they going to look for the 2v2 here? Body slam hits. Hansama's in trouble. Tabs is here as well. Misfits, the story of overextension continues as Tab picks up another kill.
Oh my word, Millenium. Things are going so well for them in this early game. 4 kills to 0, and now we're going to see how all this started off. Pretty on this Vladimir, trying to clear out a ward, ends up getting collapsed upon, and you think things are going to go awful for him, but not only does he get a big heal from his ultimate, Crimson Rush just comes up, Kaze's ultimate comes up, Selfie gets collapsed on by Millenium, and he was not expecting that play whatsoever. You saw the teleport come out from Alfari, it was too little too late. Wisdom ended up getting knocked into a wall by Joko's barrel, and then Alfari, after getting exhausted down, using his ultimate to try and buy some time, it's just not enough to be able to escape. The arrow comes out way too late from Hansama, and then they try to get a pick down onto Kaze, tankiest member on the side of Millenium. They didn't have the damage, it wasn't enough, and then Millenium get themselves another collapse, another kill, and now they've reclaimed control of the gold lead. Fantastic stuff coming out from Millenium.
And to be fair, as we approach the 20-minute mark, the gold is just about dead even. But while we were praising Misfits so much for that early game, one mistake and Millenium were so quick to punish, picking up those 4 kills. But this is where things get difficult. Can they find another opportunity here on the top side as Ignar starts to control vision? Because that Gnar has the glimpse of the Void buff, and he is going to be able to push in so easily here against Kaze.
Well, now you can see the 1-3-1 being set up by Millenium. Selfie has been forced to go into the bottom half of the map. Joko is using this as an opportunity to pick up that Cloud Drake. The problem for Millenium right now is the fact that the 2v2 for Misfits is still stronger than that of Tabs and Masterwork. They are easily pushing around this duo lane, and they're getting so much damage down onto this tier 1 turret. And this means that another big objective could go down to Misfits if there is no immediate response from Millenium. Looks like for now, Millenium are going to be able to hold their ground. But the fact that Millenium now set themselves up nicely for this 1-3-1 means that Misfits have to figure out a way to deal with it. Drawing Selfie down to the bottom side of the map is not what you want to be doing with your Azir, who is this big control mage, and his whole job is basically about wave clear and poke. You lose so much value when you have to go in a 1 versus 1 against a Vladimir that come his second item, he may very well be able to kill you.
Absolutely. I think just such a difficult lane opponent. You're not going to be able to kill him. He's going to require so much pressure from you. See a little bit of an engage coming in on the top side as Alfari is just going to gnar that Gragas away. I think you're right. We'll have to see how Azir playing on the bottom side affects what exactly Misfits are trying to bring to the table. You can see Leduc on your screen. A little bit of a grin on his face, probably happy after the 4 kills that they picked up.
I mean, who wouldn't be happy? I'd be happy, Sifa. I'd tell my date this. Hey,
Your
got
date
4
went down.
kills.
Cloud Drake is off the table.
No! God! What's the next Drake? That's the real question. An ocean? Nice. So we have a soothing drink after our brisk walk through a cloudy beach. Cloudy beach?
They all date analogies now. Everyone else takes it in like weird Avatar way. You're like, no, 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 no. They're all first date descriptions.
Yeah, they are. So like, Infernal Drake is a hot summer's night. Mountain Drake is like a... Let's not talk about Mountain Drake. Swiftly moving on. Blue buff likely going to be handed over to Selfie.
Ah, yes. Or Joko. Never mind. Joko
Selfie.
just taking a quick stroll. Just going to swaddle his way on out of that one.
Swaddle?
Swag waddle.
Oh,
yes.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, totally no reason for you to know that, but...
But now I know.
Fiddlesticks has a swaddle. Gragas has a swaddle. Oh, going in. It looks like more than just a swaddle. Looking for the engage. Han Sama getting blown up, but he may get one back. No. Tabs taking him down. Wisdom on the run. Ignar not fall behind. And Millenium backing off with yet another pick.
We talked about whether or not Millenium could be proactive once they got themselves a lead, and lo and behold, they go and do it. Millenium, they get themselves a pick down onto Han Sama. He still did not have his flash after the play that was made earlier on in the game. Very easy capitalization. Hans did nearly get himself a kill, but thanks to the exhaust from Masterwork, it was enough to now extend the kill lead 5-0.
Selfie thinks he's got the flank, but that is not the case. He's going to have to dash on out of that one. TP's coming in from Millenium as well, and the TP gets canceled out. Coling goes down, but Ignar more than happy to body block it. Millenium, such aggressive moves, and Misfits, they're trying to get those flanks, but it's just not working out for them.
You can see how Millenium dragging Misfits across the map is really starting to hurt Misfits, because simply the fact that Azir cannot be there in the mid lane to help provide support for the rest of his team, to offer that big disengage wall, to act as that big pokey machine that there is no answer for. Instead, they're just being divided. And Millenium, using the fact that they have the Gragas, followed up by the single target CC of Masterwork, combined with the mid-game damage of the Lucian, Millenium are just making this 1-3-1 work out perfectly.
Absolutely. We'll have to see exactly how this unfolded.
See, just look at the positioning of Azir. He is in no way able to help the rest of his team. Nart has the teleport, but there's no point in him TPing in at this point. And then the 4 members of Millenium quickly able to get themselves to capitalize because they have the Shen, they have the Gragas into Morgana combo, and that results in very easy single target damage. Easy kill, Millenium 5-0. Still behind in gold though.
I mean, not at all where they want to be, but good that they're keeping up thus far. You can see the main gold lead coming from that top lane, 230 CS to the 168 on the opposite side for Millenium.
Yeah, he's got about a 1.5k gold lead simply from that CS advantage that he's been able to accrue himself. So Alfari doing well in the side lane after all the ultimates that Kaze has been using. He's obviously having to sacrifice farm as a result. So Alfari punishing him for that fact. And you can just see it in the farm discrepancy. So now 2 items finished for Alphari, 2 items done for Selfie, actually deciding to go for the Abyssal instead of the Rilo. So going to be lacking a bit in utility, but will still be a little bit tanky, will have a decent amount of damage. And then Ash still working towards what looks to be like an Infinity Edge second item. That one death earlier on, slowing Hansama down a little bit, but still doing very well on the farm. 243 at 24 minutes. Pretty much 10 every 1 minute, I think.
Pretty solid.
Yes, 10
matched, of course, flawlessly at this exact moment by Tabs. 243 to 243 now. The mid lane advantage, despite everything that Vladimir's been able to do for his team, is still looking a little bit in favor of Selfie, 250 to 215. But aside from just farm, it really looks like Millenium have control over the map right now. Outside of that single lane, Alphari versus Kaze really counting against them at this stage.
Well, look at all the vision that's been set up for around the Baron. Millenium know that Misfits cannot see anything, but they do have the Ashe to spot it out in the event of Millenium trying to set it for a sneaky play. So I liked the ambitious attempt from Millenium. Unfortunately, it's not going to result in anything, thanks to the spidey senses and global vision that Hansama can provide. But still, as you rightly said, Misfits, someone losing control over the map. They have a lot of vision in the bottom side, trying to make sure that Alphari can play as aggressively as he wants, so that if Joko happens to show his face around that area, Alphari can just be like, all right, I'm going to peace out. Meanwhile, on the other side, Millenium are forcing all of their vision in the top half. They want to try and pick up that tier 1 turret in the top half. They want to make sure that they can take down all these early game turrets. And if we just look at the early game turrets, Misfits actually hold on to the advantage. So yes, Millenium are at a gold deficit, but if they could just get themselves some of these tier 1s, they would very quickly close this gold gap.
Absolutely, a lot more standing gold potentially available for Millenium. The tower difference isn't quite there yet, but despite everything, the gold lead continues to grow for Misfits. Once again, no kills being taken down for them, no objectives, just the farm, the wave control, and the jungle control coming out here in their favor. Very good place for the team to be thus far. We're really just waiting for them to make an aggressive move here. But Millenium have punished them time and time again anytime that they have seen an opening. So Misfits playing with a little bit more caution than they maybe thought they had to initially.
Thing is, if you just look at the items finished for Millenium, I mean, Pretty now, he's got his Rylai's and he's going aggressive.
Oh, Selfie just going to have to dash his way on out of that one. Hemoplague, not too much damage, but Pretty now at full health. It's the freedom to roam here. Joko getting aggressive onto Wisdom. Wisdom just going to throw down the Chilling Smite.
Literally just the passing of 2 junglers. Like 2 whales passing on the ocean floor. While they might be mindful of each other, they just pat fins, quick high five, and go on their merry way, continuing to eat that plankton that they so desperately love.
I think you've been watching too many nature documentaries, Thaddeus. I don't think that's what whales do.
That's exactly what whales do. I'm from Wales. What do you know? Yeah, sit down.
But we're standing.
Oh man. So, Ocean Drake. Ocean Drake?
Not available because it's an Ocean Drake.
Nice recovery. So here we are. We're now at the beverage part of our evening. I'm offering you a cool, refreshing drink.
Millenium, I mean, I gotta say, really making the aggressive moves here. Not afraid to go for the second day here.
No, second date is next game, mate.
Oh. So this is just a very...
This is all one day. So Cloud Drake is a nice walk on the beach. It's a bit windy, but it keeps you nice and cool, right?
Then you have a cool drink to cool down after
Then you have a cool drink to cool down.
Yeah.
That's where you stare longingly into each other's eyes. And then we're going to have a quick look as to what Drake is next. It's another ocean. So this is the part where you then start to drink a little bit too much. And Ignar, he may have drunk a bit too much himself.
Exactly. Colin coming down, already used Unbreakable. A lot of upfront damage. Has to use the face of the mountain as well. But just a pressure advantage coming out here as Millenium are able to force Ignar back for now. Keeping our eyes on Joko. He is on tunnel clearing duty. Ignar's favorite place to be. Pretty continuing to get aggressive here. Selfie moving forward as he sees the opportunity after the empowered Q falls off.
Very smart play from Selfie playing around that Crimson Rush. It's exactly what you need to be doing against Vladimir. That is his big opportunity to trade damage with you, so you just want to make sure that you don't go anywhere near it. And I like this from Selfie. He realized early on that he was struggling against Pretty. He needed to change up his playstyle. He couldn't just mindlessly shove up the wave. And I critiqued the fact that if you put Selfie in a side wave, he's not going to be able to have much impact. But What he has gained is a lot of farm and a lot of experience. Level 17 Azir.
28 minutes in.
Very scary stuff.
Oh,
But
Joko
Joko
gonna miss the barrel. He may have overstayed his welcome. In comes the Shen, but they're fighting right under the Azir tower. Selfie gives him a get-out-of-jail-free card as he pushes him back. But aggressive moves are coming in for the team. Alphari's here as well, and it's a party in the top lane as Hans Sama takes down the mid.
Very risky stuff, but it might not be over yet as both teams posture around the red buff. Hans Sama does have his arrow available. There are 5 members around the Baron pit. This has enabled Misfits to get control over the Baron, and they might just go for it themselves.
Are they looking for the fight, or are they looking for the Baron? They're going to start it up. Binding coming in onto Wisdom. Kaze off to the side. Selfie, no ultimate available, and Misfits are not hesitating. Pretty has got the flank. Alphari jumps over the wall. Meganar on the way. Keep your eyes on that health bar. Baron not going to drop, but Selfie will drop Masterwork. Pretty dashing forward. No one dropping yet, but the arrow's going to land onto Joko. Wisdom moves in for another kill. Misfits taking control of the fight. Kaze doing his best to back off, doing his best to buy time for the team, and while he will get time for the team, he will not walk away with his life. A massive fight in the favor of Misfits. Now they move right back to the Baron.
Fantastic execution from Misfits, setting up that Baron, drawing Millenium near, and it's all off the back of punishing Millenium for trying to force a dive in the top half of the map. So have a look at this. No, the Joko doesn't have his ultimate. Kaze doesn't have his ultimate. Yes, you can use the Vladimir to come in, but he's still at low health. He has his ultimate, but Misfits, they just want to avoid him at all costs. They just want to keep Joko away. Alphari goes over the wall, gets an ultimate off. That forces a very early flash out from Joko, so he then can't avoid the Ash arrow from Hans. And then after that, Misfits just slowly start to clean up the fight after they successfully split Millenium up. So after Millenium do a good job all this game of diversifying Misfits so that they can't pool their resources together, Misfits then reverse the strategy in a single team fight. Now they've got themselves the Baron, and look at this gold lead that they've now got themselves.
Instantly, 5K, 6K now in their favor as they start to push down the mid lane. Tier 2s are going to fall so easily before this team. It's going to be harder and harder for Millenium. Wave clear options are going to be so crucial here. Culling from tabs may buy them a bit of time. But it only gets harder from here. Millenium, as you said, doing a good job of splitting Misfits up, and now Misfits, they're more than happy to be split up. They've got the advantage, they've got the empowered minions, and they're just going to start breaking down Tier 2s.
And that's a level 18 Azir with a completed Void Staff. Nobody is going to want to go up against that, especially with Kaze only being level 15. Pretty, he was looking very strong earlier, but he just looks like a scared little Bloodlord right now, as those are some big empowered minions knocking on the doors of Millenium. 5 towers, sorry, down in favor, likely to be 6 relatively soon, as Misfits slowly start to close the door on Millennium's
now looking
first
for
game.
the flank. Boomerang goes out. Alphari locked up. Meganar on the way. Alphari waiting to jump in, though. Does not have flash available, so no fancy moves coming in for the engages here. And Millenium going to take some time to clear out these waves, but you can see 6-1 now the tower score and a 10K gold lead, or at least approaching that, as Misfits pull forward in this game by such a huge margin.
Now the real question is, how well can Misfits close things out? They have a lot of vision in Millennium's jungle, so if Millenium ever try and venture out, Misfits could look for a potential collapse. But other than that, this is where things really start to get hard. They have a lot of good poke potential. Ashe is a very long-range AD carry, so she doesn't have to get too close to the turret, but you always have to be aware of the Morgana binding, the Gragas ultimate, the taunt from Shen. There are so many little abilities that can catch you off guard with a quick cheeky flash coming out from an unwarded area that all of a sudden Millenium can quickly take firm control over this game once again. And so Misfits just have to play very smart. They have to allocate their resources effectively. Right now they have all 3 waves pushing in their favor. They still have the Baron buff, but they are yet to actually knock down one of the base turrets.
Moving in, I mean, the game was so slow in the beginning, despite what we expected to be so bloody. And it's just interesting to see when it does finally get aggressive. When Misfits find an opportunity, the game just explodes, and you can see no hesitation in them when they know they have the advantage here. Alphari just doesn't even hesitate for a moment to start pushing in this top lane tower, not worried about getting taunted out by the Shen, not worried about the rest of the team here.
Well, he's now hit level 18 himself, and compared to Kaze, who only has 2 items finished, he is a big, scary little man. And Millenium is struggling for an answer right now. They're just hoping that Misfits overextend. Good binding on a Hans, but Ignar's there to back him up.
Yeah, more than happy to just block that one out with the Unbreakable. Of course, Selfie continuing to pressure the bottom side, and Alphari does not care.
Misfits
at all. And Selfie's gonna grab a solo kill on top of that. What is happening? Millenium are falling apart. Misfits, they're just gonna move in to start breaking down these inhibitors. And there has just been no opportunity to respond on the side of Millenium.
With the death of Pretty on a 40-second death timer, as well as the Baron just running out, that might be able to slow down the push of Misfits, but they are just so strong right now. 12,000 gold lead in their favor. Another turret's going to drop. Another inhibitor is going to drop. Question is for Misfits, do they continue the grind or do they just back off?
Ult coming in for Shen. Maybe they're looking to get the pick onto Alfari. He may get caught out, but the rest of the team is on the bottom side, and they're going to burn through inhibitor. One has dropped for Misfits. They're now even in man advantage, but Misfits are just going to grab a third inhibitor, or a second inhibitor, as the top one remains alive, and back away. I mean, they have to be happy with that 12K gold advantage.
So Pretty tries to use his Crimson Rush to get a bit of extra health back, but that was a big misplay. You cannot afford to die this early on when you have Misfits knocking on your door. And because he ends up going down, he was unsuccessfully able to hold the door. Misfits ran through, they get themselves two inhibitors, the third one is exposed, and now all Misfits have to do is group up back top. You can send Alfari to the bottom lane to make sure that these super minions are still pushing into the base. At Millenium, they're running out of resources to really deal with the pressure.
Once again, the 12K gold. Millenium really need to figure out what went wrong for them this game, because Misfits, it felt like they stayed even despite losing 5 kills, despite everything else.
We talked about their ability to set up proactive plays. Early on, things were looking very promising, but then they tried to go for the dive top. Azir had his turret, he had his wall. Joko used the ultimate way too preemptively. Misfits realized that so many ultimates were unavailable for Millenium, so they forced them into an ultimatum. Do the Baron, or fight us for the Baron, or just, well, I mean, that was it. You either give us a Baron or you fight us for it. And either way, it was Misfits being able to come out on top, because not only were they able to execute the fight well, but they then quickly turned it into a Baron. They didn't overcommit, they didn't greed for kills. And this is why I'm very impressed with Misfits, because at the start of Challenger, we were very worried about the fact that, yes, it's a very confident team. Yes, these guys like bloody games. They like to go for fights. But now they seem very calculated, very controlled. They were in a deficit. They understood what they needed to do to come back, and they were able to act upon it effectively.
Absolutely punishing that ultimate advantage, really, when it comes down to it. Punishing the use of those global abilities, forcing Millenium to group up in a single instance. Misfits with some smart play. They are going to continue to clear out the vision, and it looks like playing safe is the name of the game here, Vedia. So the Masterwork may have missed the memo. He's just going to flash out to safety on that one, but Misfits are moving up into the top lane. Millenium have to respond, but now Tabs goes on a rampage as they burn through the top laner. Alfari overcommits, and that's going to buy Millenium that much more time here.
I have no idea what Alfari is doing. There is no need to be that over-aggressive in the bottom half of the map. It's going to delay the massive advantage that you have over Millenium. You have 2 exposed inhibitors. Your only job is to push the wave. And now Millenium, they're trying to force something.
Oh, moving in. Shen ultimate comes out. Flash away from the taunt. Good moves coming in. What can they get? Who is going to start this fight? Moving forward, it looks like Selfie will be, as he shuts down Tabs in an instant, but the rest of Millenium are moving to respond. Who has the flank here? Masterwork takes so much damage. The Azir crushing through the teammates, but Pretty's on the back line. Pretty versus Hansama, the 1v1 as the rest of the team fight continues. Wisdom's going to pick up Masterwork. Joko could be next as the flash forward, and Pretty, not a whole lot of hope left as the Ashe rips through that life bar.
Unfortunately for Misfits, even though they lose Alfari, Millenium, they miss position. Tabs ends up going down, and because of that, Misfits can force the 4 versus 4, and it looks like they're going to take this first game of this best of 5.
Alfari respawns, TPing in, and Misfits, after a back and forth early game, managed to pull it out here with a 15,000 gold lead 37 minutes into the game, advancing up 1-0 in the series.
because Misfits had everything. They had the Azir ult. Oh, the only thing that was down was the Azir ult. They still had the Narbar. They had Braum ult. They had the Ashe ult. And their whole objective was keep Joker away from the Baron. He was so prioritized on stealing it away that he didn't anticipate the fact that, oh, Alfari, he's got a full rage bar. He's just going to jump over the wall and force a fight.
And it was, I mean, a crushing defeat there in the end, because it feels like Millenium got the start that we really wanted them to get, where we could say this is the way that they can win the game, this is the way that they can pull ahead, and at the end of the day it just really didn't pan out for them, which felt so rough, and I have to wonder how that's going to affect their mental game coming into the next series.
There were just two key moments. The fact that Millenium tried to force a bad dive onto an Azir under his own turret when he had everything up, trying to punish the fact that this Azir doesn't have a TP in a side lane, let's try and shut down this control mage. But also just very smart play from Misfits. To me, I just thought that was the most impressive thing. The fact that they just so decisively said, oh, this is a window, let's take advantage of it.
Absolutely. And I think taking that Baron is a move that we would not see a lot of more veteran teams make, because in theory, it's risky on the 50-50 smite, but they knew that they had the summoner spell advantage. They knew that if they could force a team fight, if they could bait Millenium in, that they could win that team fight, no questions, and they were able to pull it out in the end. And I think that level of decisiveness is absolutely crucial in these best-of-5 series.
I completely agree, but fortunately, there are more opportunities for Millenium. We've still got that second date to go through, so there are plenty of opportunities for them to turn things around. There were a lot of promising aspects from Millenium's play.
Absolutely. Going to have to see how they adjust. But you've heard enough from us. Let's send things back over to Quickshot to break down that game.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And interesting game. You know, the ending was kind of as expected, but for 25 minutes, Misfits just kind of ignored Millenium, even though Millenium was slapping them around in the face and picking up kills. Talk to me about these team comps. Maybe this is part of the reason why Stress. What did you make of picks and bans? Anything catch you by surprise?
So we were talking about this backstage while watching the game. It wasn't exactly a Misfits-esque draft. There was some aspects of it, getting the Gnar. First of all, they took away Joko's main champion, Rek'Sai, get that out of there. Then they have the Lucian stolen away, and I don't really think they care from that. So Misfits weren't exactly looking at coming out of this draft and saying, well, we've won from picks and bans. So they still had a pretty strong draft, but I don't think it was the make or break of this game.
Yeah, I actually like the draft from Millenium, though. I mean, other than like taking Lucian away, I would have preferred like an Ashe or like a utility pick that's been working out for them. I think Lucian's fine, but like it doesn't, as Stress said, really hurt Misfits in any way. But I did like them kind of stalling up the lanes, which is what they did, and then going for that play in the mid lane, and that's kind of what we expected and wanted them to do. So at least in that sense, it was good.
So let's talk about how that played out. We've actually got a replay. Even game, all the way up till about 16 or so minutes, and then all of a sudden, first blood happens. Millenium just pick up a few. Pulse, maybe start with what you liked about this.
Yeah, so basically, as we were just saying, like the lanes went pretty much even. They were behind a little bit, but for the most part, they were pretty good. And then Millenium were just able to capitalize from what looked like a good play for Selfie, because he held the ultimate, looked like they were going to get killed onto Vladimir, and then it just went downhill.
It looked like it, but the key thing in this scenario is Hans Sama had actually recalled at the beginning of this play, and he doesn't even fire his arrow until he's very late on, and then it hits a black shielded target anyway from there as the replay ends. So Misfits a little caught short in that kind of situation. Millenium were already making their way up to that play. It was, as you said, like it looked to be good for Misfits at first, but the five-man group easily turns it around. And from there, it was a really good start from Millenium. Kind of maybe almost reminiscent of the Epsilon series, where we were like, man, game one, first 10 to 15 minutes looks great against Misfits, but then Misfits just turn it on.
You turn it on. Before we talk about how they did that, that is a new first blood record for the Summer split here. 16 minutes and 14 seconds. The previous record on Summer, 11 minutes and 28.
Not a difficult one to break, honestly, in Challenger. First blood usually happens like 40 seconds into the game, so...
But it was nice seeing some control, though, right? I mean, coming into a final, a little bit of tempered aggression, a little bit more maybe heads-up play. The thing is, even though the 16 minutes in for the next 10 minutes, Misfits earned a 3,000 gold lead just by farming and taking towers. Millenium got one tower the entire game.
And that's what kind of, we talked initially about, you know, how go even in lane, then look to team fight. That's what Millenium did in the first 15 minutes of the game, and it started working well for them. But then Millennium started going, oh, I don't think we're ahead, we shouldn't really do anything, because they weren't really, and Misfits kind of did the same. So what happened was you had this Azir in the side lane, you had a Shen that was continually getting pushed in by a Nas, so Selfie got free farm, Alphari started crushing, and that opened up so much of the map and eventually leads to the Baron play that puts Misfits so far ahead.
The Baron play, we've got just that moment, don't
Really?
we? Let's get that on your screens.
That screen first, as we're going to be able to pull into this one. But yeah, the casters are talking about this, and you look at it, there's pressure on the bottom side from the wave pushing up, and yes, Millennium is still here already, but the way that Misfits have already got the rest of the map set up allows them to bait this fight. Hans Sama drew in 3, was able to kite backwards, and is able to turn around the rest of the fight. And from there, Misfits are already picking these segmented fights where they're outnumbering Millennium, and it's very difficult to fight from that standpoint. And Misfits take the Baron from there and end up kind of just snowballing this game from what was very even to a massive lead to end things out.
Yeah, it didn't help up that they all grouped as 4. It's like, oh, please arrow me.
Yeah.
Like, that also didn't help. But, like, honestly, through the game, I was impressed by Misfits. Despite having a deficit, I was kind of glad they got a deficit as well to see what they would do after that, because typically they just go fast and hard regardless of the situation. Here they actually stepped back and it was like, actually no, Alphari's getting farm over time. We can just wait for him to flame Horizon Kaze in the top lane, and then we just win the game.
So, gentlemen, 44% of Misfits damage was dealt by Selfie's Azir. Massively impactful when they decided to start fighting. Millennium, a stronger start than at least what I was expecting. Let's look towards game 2. What do you think they have to change, or what do you think they have to do better? Also knowing Millennium now blue side for the rest of however long the series is.
I would like to see Millennium carry on picking drafts, specifically bot lanes which go even, so that they can get into the mid game like at a decently even pace. Because even in that game, taking away the Lucian, they were able to kind of do that. But I would like to see them do that, but with a utility ADC.
Maybe if Millennium can get Joker onto the Rek'Sai as well, that's where we've seen a little bit more strength out of the Millennium lineup. One thing they're going to have to overcome, though, is the fact that I feel Selfie has a lot of blind pickable mids, and that Alphari is going to consistently get a top lane matchup that he wants. We've even seen Selfie pull out the Malzahar last week as a blind pick, not caring what he plays it into.
Yamato said on this very couch he feels Malzahar is a very comfortable, safe blind pick. We'll find out if the teams agree. Gentlemen, thank you for helping me break this one down. It is time for a quick break, but as we go, we're going to hear from Joko, and he's going to talk about how his former teammate is going places, no matter who's on the rift around him.
Yeah, personally, like everybody with the team, like we like Ansama, and he's still a friend, a good friend for us, because like he was like in French team, and after we say to him, okay, just come, and he's in our team, and after he can go away. But if we didn't pick him, I still think he's gonna be LCS, because he was like he's gonna have like perks, he would go LCS, whatever. But it's kinda good he come from our team and after go else.